Dorsey. Jason is one of the most sought-after generational experts in the world, and he's led more than 70 generational research studies. He's also a member of the Hall of Fame of the National Speakers Association and has delivered more than 3,000 keynote addresses. His area of research is of great interest because Jason is devoted to studying the very generation of students who are in our SCAD classrooms right now, Gen Z. Welcome, Jason, and thank you for sharing your time with all of us at SCAD.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super fired up to be with you today. Thank you, President Wallace.
Well, let's get right into it. What does the world get wrong about Gen Z, and what are the implications of those realities from? Just give us a shorthand version of what are the different generations in the workplace today.
When we think about Gen Z, I like to think about the generation in the context of the other generations. You know, so often everybody only wants to talk about Gen Z, and we actually need to put them in a little bit of context. So Gen Z, the oldest members, are already 25 years old, which is a big deal because people think that Gen Z is eternally 12, you know, but now they're already 25 years old. Fastest growing generation in the workforce today, driving every major consumer trend. Super, super exciting time to study this generation. Gen Z is not Millennials 2.0. It's not just this more extreme version of the generation before them where they're going to be like all the other generations and outgrow it. That is completely not true.
I loved your book, especially the chapters on Gen Z in the workforce.
Gen Z is entering the workforce with less experience than any other generation their age. This is a huge deal. Many of them don't know what it means to have a great meeting. They may not know how to dress in a certain situation. They may not know how to bring a problem or situation to their boss. Gen Z has a very limited view of the career options available to them. They just don't even know what the jobs are out there, so they need to be exposed to that. The second thing we find is they want to meet with either people in that career, mentors, or other business people, and ask questions and really have that sense of human connection. The third things we find is internships have never been more important, and in many places they're increasingly challenging to get because the companies are trying to figure it out, Gen Z's trying to figure it out. Internships, getting people real-world exposure, particularly with tangible outcomes, really boosts the confidence of Gen Z.
Really is. On a related subject, you said that this generation loves to see specific examples of work that will be expected of them.
Yeah, when we think about specific examples, the way we like to describe it is to provide specific examples of the performance that you expect. So the thing we found works the best, actually reduces stress, drives accountability, and drives performance, is to show them what you're looking for. Now, they don't have to copy it, obviously, but what you're saying is this is what success looks like with this task, with this project, and so forth. What we find, this is super cool, is they learn a lot faster, saves professors, employers, parents, everybody else a ton of stress and time, and the best part is you can then hold them accountable because now they see and understand what it is you actually want. It's one of the best things. Show them what you want and then hold them accountable. It's actually the opposite of catering or coddling.
No, they really want to know what's expected, and then they want to strive to accomplish that. They don't want it to be a mystery.
Exactly.
The art of connecting with an audience is central to a SCAD education. What are some key strategies to help Gen Z grow as confident speakers? I mean, Jason, you're an expert. Give us some tips.
Now, I will tell you, other generations, because I get in the middle of this all the time, are like, oh, they're just not good communicators. It's like, whoa, time out. They just learned to communicate differently. So the tips that we see work really well with Gen Z, first of all, is to actually get them up and speaking. So you start with a small group, help them to build their confidence up, shorter presentations. And then what we do, and this is really fun with Gen Z, is we allow them to critique others and go back and forth and back and forth. One of the best tricks with Gen Z, two things to share. One is they want to rely on slides. Why is that? Well, because they're good at slides. But slides should accentuate a speech or a presentation. They shouldn't be the speech or the presentation. We like to teach Gen Z to present without slides because then when they get slides, they're like magic. And then the second thing that we like to do, we have everybody in the room write something positive that they liked about the presentation. It's an old technique, but it's shocking how many Gen Zers have not received any type of positive affirmation for giving a public presentation.
Positive reinforcement, that is so important in all of education, and not reading your PowerPoint, so important too. Trust is big with Gen Z. What are some strategies to build engagement and to build trust with this generation.
Frequency of communication. Letting them feel like they're being heard, that they're being listened to, that they're being seen, really important. Just keeping that communication going, whatever that looks like to them. The second thing we see with trust, and this makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that's okay, that's the point, is vulnerability. When we can be a little bit vulnerable, it turns out that they'll be vulnerable back, and that's where trust comes from. And then the third one is keeping those commitments in fairness. When it comes down to fairness, Gen Z will tell us the number one thing that breaks their trust is when somebody gets treated differently than they do in the same situation. So those three things, frequency, vulnerability, and then treating people in the same way, otherwise you end up back in this fairness place.
Yeah, they have a very strong sense of empathy, group dynamics, teamwork.
That sense of connection and togetherness that they have is really fascinating. It's something that we try to understand. When we think about empathy, you also see that around inclusion, around people being able to be who they are and celebrating that. And all of these things tie back together around the generation.
Yeah, social justice and climate being like some of the most important matters to Gen Z.
Yeah, we've led our State of Gen Z study now since 2016, and we've studied which social causes create the greatest emotional response to Gen Z, and it's changed over that period of time, but now it's settled in, and the number one, just like you said exactly, social justice. Number two is combating climate change. They say that constantly. And then number three moves around a little bit, but it tends to be around fairness, whether that's gender equity, whether that's wage parity. There's all these different ways that they'll say it, but it's really about leveling the playing field for everybody.
Well, SCAD is devoted to teaching Gen Z, and this generation has a lot to teach us too. What can we learn from them?
What I get most excited about with Gen Z right now in terms of learning from them is the incredible energy that they bring to everything they do. They really have this desire to have an impact, desire to make the world a better place, and they're not shy to talk about it.
Thank you, Jason. We love you at SCAD.